The sound of a crystal champagne glass shattering against the polished marble floorboards completely silenced the laughter in our grand wedding reception ballroom. I stood perfectly still at the head table, my hands resting calmly against my white silk bridal gown, watching the smug, arrogant smile completely evaporate from my mother's face. Just moments ago, Eleanor was smiling brightly, raising her glass in a fake toast, fully believing she had successfully executed a multi-million-dollar corporate heist to strip me of my inheritance and leave me penniless on my own wedding day. She thought she had built the perfect legal trap by forcing an altered estate document onto the docket. But as our family estate attorney turned to page 14 of my late grandfather's secret ironclad will, Eleanor's high society world instantly collapsed into absolute zero. Her eyes went wide with pure terror, and her breath caught in her throat as the true legal words were read aloud to our 200 sitting guests. Eleanor looked across the room at me, her hands visibly shaking as she realized her blind, greedy arrogance had walked her straight into a trap. She came to my wedding to watch me fall, but she was the one leaving in absolute ruin. To understand the deep psychological warfare that led to my wedding day becoming a legal battlefield, you have to understand the toxic structure of my mother's ambition. My name is Clara. For the last 7 years, I worked tirelessly to build my own independent career as a senior financial consultant, never asking my family for a single dollar. My late grandfather had built a multi-million-dollar real estate empire, and before he passed, he always told me that true wealth is built on character and hard work. But my mother, Eleanor, was a deeply narcissistic high society woman who treated people like chess pieces. She spent her life spending the family trust funds, driving luxury sports cars, and looking down on anyone who actually worked for a living. To her, my independence was a dangerous threat because she couldn't use money to control my choices. The true conflict exploded exactly 1 month before my wedding to David, a kind, hard-working pediatric surgeon who loved me for who I was, not my family's name. Eleanor despised David because he wasn't an elite high society heir she could manipulate. One evening, she marched straight into my design studio office, accompanied by her ruthless corporate attorney. She didn't offer a greeting. She simply tossed a thick legal folder onto my desk. It was a forced prenuptial allocation that demanded I waive all future claims to my grandfather's estate, threatening that if I refused to sign it, she would use her executive power to freeze my business credit lines and lock me out of the family firm entirely. She looked at me with a cold sneer and said, "Sign it, Clara. A penniless girl doesn't deserve a high society wedding. If you defy me, I will ensure you stand at that altar with absolutely nothing." What Eleanor's blind, greedy quest for absolute dominance blocked her from seeing was that my grandfather knew exactly what kind of monster his daughter had become. In the final months of his life, realizing that Eleanor was systematically trying to alter his corporate files and manipulate the digital servers, my grandfather took extraordinary measures to protect me. He always taught me that the digital world can be wiped out with a single system hack, but physical ink on paper carries its own absolute truth. 2 weeks before he passed, he quietly called me to his private library study and handed me a heavy, vintage tin lockbox containing a legally certified, handwritten addendum to his will. It was an unhackable shield, an absolute legal document that stayed hidden under the floorboards of my study until the exact day I needed to use it. The morning of our wedding arrived with a brilliant, clear sky that illuminated the grand historical chapel. The room was thick with the scent of fresh white roses, and the melodic harmony of the pipe organ filled the air as David and I stood at the altar, exchanging our sacred vows. Looking at the front row, my mother Eleanor sat there wearing an inappropriate, loud cream designer dress, flashing a bright, proud smile for the cameras. To the high society guests and lifestyle bloggers in attendance, she looked like the ultimate loving, supportive mother. But as our eyes met across the altar, her smile shifted into a malicious, mocking smirk. She believed that because I had stubbornly refused to sign her predatory prenuptial paperwork, the upcoming reading of the public will at the reception would mark the official execution of my financial life. The tension reached a suffocating peak during the grand reception ballroom celebration. After dinner concluded, Eleanor confidently directed our family estate attorney, Mr. Bradley, to step up to the microphone podium at the center of the hall. She had explicitly invited her elite country club circle and corporate board directors to witness this exact moment, fully intending to use the reading of my grandfather's public corporate files to publicly humiliate me and showcase her total takeover of the empire. Eleanor sat at the head table, sipping her expensive champagne, her shoulders thrown back as she looked at David and me with an expression of pure, unadulterated triumph. She believed she had already bought the loyalty of the legal team and successfully buried my name forever. And now, as requested by the executive manager of the estate, we will conclude with the final asset allocation updates, Mr. Bradley announced, his voice booming over the speaker system. Eleanor smiled widely, nodding to her friends as the lawyer opened the final binder. But as his eyes hit the 14th page, Mr. Bradley suddenly froze. His face went entirely pale, and his hands began to tremble as he read the hidden, certified addendum that my attorney had quietly submitted to the record just an hour before the ceremony. The entire ballroom fell into a dead, terrifying silence as the lawyer cleared his throat, his voice dropping into a shaky, stunned tone. I have an official, handwritten codicil to read, executed by the late patriarch and verified by the state Supreme Court registry. It supersedes all previous digital filings. The lawyer's voice trembled across the microphone, delivering every syllable like a heavy gavel striking an execution block. I hereby declare that due to systemic corporate mismanagement, greed, and deliberate emotional cruelty against my granddaughter, Clara Miller, I pull all executive authority away from my daughter, Eleanor. As of today, Eleanor's corporate credit lines are deactivated, her monthly trust allocation is cut to absolute zero, and she is ordered to vacate the family manor within 24 hours. 100% of the master trust properties, voting shares, and the multi-million-dollar real estate empire are transferred exclusively to the sole control of Clara Miller. Eleanor's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floorboards with a loud crash that echoed like a gunshot through the silent hall. The absolute collapse of Eleanor's high society empire moved with an unbending, beautiful speed. With her trust funds cut to absolute zero and a formal forensic audit launched into her past corporate spending, her elite country club friends completely abandoned her overnight. She was forced to pack her designer clothes into basic cardboard boxes and move into a tiny, cramped rented apartment on the industrial edge of the city, completely left to face the cold reality of her own hollow vanity. 2 weeks after the wedding, the morning sun shone brightly over the city skyline as I walked into the grand executive penthouse boardroom of the family empire. I was no longer an independent designer fighting a toxic mother. I was the sole owner and managing director of the entire legacy. As I took my place at the head of the massive mahogany conference table, dressed in an immaculate, tailor-made business suit, the entire board of directors stood up, breaking into a loud, roaring standing ovation to welcome a leader who built her worth on truth and integrity. As I stand by the large glass windows of my penthouse office today, watching the golden evening light paint the city buildings, a deep, beautiful peace settles into my soul. Our modern world is often filled with arrogant, narcissistic individuals like Eleanor, people who believe that an elite name, inherited wealth, or a web of digital manipulations gives them the right to treat others like chess pieces, sabotage relationships, and trample over the dedicated people who perform the actual labor in the shadows. They believe that true power lies in the luxury items they can buy and the cruelty they can execute behind closed doors. But this long, painful journey taught me the ultimate moral lesson of human life. A legacy and a home cannot be sustained by empty vanity and toxic greed. True success and unshakable dignity aren't found in the expensive silk you wear or the money you steal. They are built on the unyielding foundation of character, honesty, hard work, and dedicated love. Eleanor tried to publicly ruin my life on the happiest day of my future. But in her blind malice, she forgot that a true daughter's worth can never be stained by a fraudulent claim. If you believe that honesty, character, and hard work will always triumph over toxic family greed, Please hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful, cinematic stories of emotional justice. Thank you for watching, and remember, never let anyone stain the foundation you built with your own hands.